25 years old, I sat on a park bench in Munich and shot myself in the head. The gun I used was a gift from Adolf Hitler. No, I can't start with that. I have to wind it back. Though others say that I am wrong, my love for him is pure and strong. I see the man behind the mask. I have no doubts I know my task. My future lies with Adolf Hitler. It's ridiculous, isn't it? All these years and I still can't finish it because nothing rhymes with Hitler. Or Adolf, for that matter, unless he played golf, which he didn't. I read somewhere that golf and sex are the only things you can enjoy without being good at them. Although Adolf would never have the patience for something he wasn't good at. I was born 33 years ago, just as World War I began, the 8th of August 1914. My parents hoped for an alliance between Britain and Germany, and so they called me Unity. My grandfather was good pals with Wagner, and so my middle name is Valkyrie, and the Mitfords can trace their ancestors back to the Norman conquest of 1066, and so Unity Valkyrie Mitford was born. One of 7 siblings. The youngest of 6 brilliant and beautiful daughters. Tabloids' words, not mine. All of my sisters were gifted writers, but my talent was drawing. I was always destined to be different. And writing is so horribly tedious, don't you agree? Ugh. I mean, all those words, trying to find exactly the right one, like something that rhymes with Hitler, for example. Tedious. Apparently, Wagner was the only one of his siblings not to receive piano lessons. I'll wager his parents were jolly sorry to have wasted all that money. Adolf used to say, whoever wants to understand National Socialist Germany must know Wagner. Apparently, he died of a heart attack whilst arguing with his wife about his interest in another woman. Wagner, that is, not Adolf. Literally struck down by God. Divine retribution, perhaps. One can't help wondering. I was never what you'd call a good girl. But who wants to be good after all? It's almost as tedious as writing, I should think. Or golf. Mae West said, "There are no good girls gone wrong, just bad girls found out." I threw a rock through my headmistress's bedroom window at boarding school. With my name on it, of course. Well, credit where credit is due, I always say. Immediate expulsion, of course. Ripping result all round. Hated the dreadful place. It's not natural, all those silly girls cooped up together, hidden away from the slightest whiff of testosterone. Ugh. Boarding with a silent D, I used to say. From a very young age, I was obsessed with Adolf Hitler. And so when I was old enough, I moved to Munich, took German lessons and made it my mission in life to meet him. My hairdresser told me that he loved the Osteria Bavaria restaurant, and so naturally, I became a regular. I simply knew the Fuhrer and I would hit it off. He was obsessed with Wagner's music, and so I made sure I mentioned that he was best pals with my grandfather. Granddaddy also translated a book that inspired Adolf to write Mein Kampf. My struggle. That's what it means. My sisters would say he was referring to his struggle to string correct sentences together. But by 1933, it was almost outselling the Bible in Germany. To be perfectly honest, I think people were afraid not to own it. And we both loved dogs, Adolf and I, and the cinema, and Renoir nudes. Although I was probably more of a Rubens than a Renoir, a somewhat larger build than most Englishmen prefer, but the Germans were rather keen on sturdy women. Adolf used to call me a perfect specimen of Aryan womanhood. He also loved that I was related to Winston Churchill, cousins by marriage. He did a frightfully good impersonation of Mussolini. Adolf, not Winston. It used to make me shriek with laughter. And of course I told him the story of where I was conceived. My parents were digging for gold in Ontario the year before I was born. My father owned a mine in the town of Swastika. Now there's a rather marvellous dinner table conversation right there. We became great friends. Yeah. But of course I wanted more. But Adolf said he would never marry, could never marry, because it would disappoint his many female supporters. He was married to Germany, he said. And every time he spoke to the German public, you could feel that love, that orgasmic surge of passion from the thousands of people that came to worship him, hands thrust towards the sky like engorged phalluses. It was sex on a grand scale. It was heady and rhythmic and addictive. It didn't stop him from taking a lover, of course. Aoife Braun, all brawn and no brain. She was 17 when they met. Heinrich Hoffmann, the Nazi Party photographer, took her on as an assistant. I read somewhere that he described her as feather-brained and inconsequential. I always did like old Heinrich, such a perceptive fellow. She was never in the Nazi Party, never involved in the politics, like me. She provided him with a warm bed, but I with the fire of ideas and intellect. Still, I never gave up hope. He was so charismatic. One doesn't rise from an unemployed painter to the leader of the Third Reich if one doesn't have a certain... Je ne sais quoi. He became my world. I would spout his ideas to all who would listen. Have intimate liaisons with members of his inner circle just to be closer to him. I even got arrested in Prague handing out leaflets. Such a to-do, you've no idea. I always believed that there could be an alliance between my beloved Britain and my adopted Germany. From the very beginning, I swore that if they were ever torn in two, I would end my life. Silly old Eva tried to commit suicide twice. Attention-seeking, of course. Shot herself in the chest first, that got her into his bed. And then, sleeping pills, which got her a nice 3-bedroom apartment in Munich. Anyone with a jot of sense knows that if you are serious, you use a gun to the head. And that's why, when war was announced, I sat on a bench in English garden. I put my gift from the Führer to my temple, and I pulled the trigger. The doctors gave me another 10 years, with the bullet lodged in the back of my skull. Digging the bally thing out could have meant the end of me, so they left it there. Adolf came to visit once, but he did pay for the nurses and for the hospital. After a week, I began to recognise my family and friends, and shortly after, I learnt to walk again. One night, I tried to swallow my swastika brooch in the hope that it would choke me. But it didn't. I was shipped back to England. My brother Tom died in Burma fighting for Britain. My mother called me a traitor, whilst he was a hero. But Daddy's always been there for me. Still is, as a matter of fact. The two of us banished to Inch Kenneth. It's a tiny island off the west coast of Scotland. Hidden away like an embarrassing rash or an ugly scar. We're a strange pair, we two. Praying amongst the fallen stones of our derelict chapel. Wandering like poltergeists between the rooms of our white mansion and gazing out at the windswept shores of our self-imposed exile. Do you know they accused me of sending midnight messages to German subs using my bicycle lamp? We were so thoroughly closed off from the war, and yet still I am accused of influencing its course. My only interest was in stopping it before it began. But I came to realise that he had no interest in allies, only world domination. No interest in me, as it turns out. He wouldn't take my calls, never respond to my letters. He claimed it would weaken his resolve. I threw it all away. His portraits, the signed copy of Mein Kampf, my gold party badge. It's my life, my youth. I threw it all away. I always dreamed I would have 6 sons. The eldest called Adolf and all the rest called John. I heard he was cowering in a bunker with her towards the end, married all of 40 hours. A gunshot, an arsenic pill, and they were gone. Such a fucking coward. You can't criticise Unity with impunity. For if you belittle her, you have to answer to Hitler. I read that in a newspaper once. I was famous then. Not loved, but famous. It was such a ridiculous attempt at a rhyme. Why would you even bother? I could have told them nothing rhymes with Hitler.